welcome to the first episode of Joy with People. Today I'm here with Krish, and Krish is the upcoming director. He's released a feature film,
short film
short film called
Thief.
That's it. Yeah, Thief. I was in the movie.
You were. Yeah. You were one of the thieves.
Yeah, one of the thieves. Yeah, and I was street cast for the movie, and which I never thought would be something that would happen to me. And it was one of the most incredible experiences I've had.
Glad to hear it. Yeah.
Yes, because it's like I didn't expect something like
Why not? Why didn't you expect to be street cast?
Because first of all, I got street cast from meeting someone on set in another film.
Yeah. And you weren't you weren't an actor, you weren't a crew, you were you were visiting the set.
Just doing the BTS, just trying to see for the first time what an actual feature film, how it's shot and everything. And I even came to do the work for free that time as well. And that interaction just landed me, I'm just quite surprised that it landed me a role, with you in your first short film, right? And first of all, I'm really amazed with what happened on that day with the short film that you made. Film isn't where you started.
No. So I did philosophy and politics at uni. I originally wanted to be a writer, I wanted to write novels and stories and stuff. And I thought, I didn't take English for A-level stupidly because I only kind of got into literature and writing when I was around 17, 18, by which point I already chosen my A-levels. And then I always thought, so the best books are always philosophical, right? In my opinion anyway, the best novels, whether it's French, German, Colombian, Indian, whatever, anywhere, it's always quite philosophical. So philosophy was the path for me. And then during COVID, so I was about to enter my second year of uni, I really got into film. So I kind of realized that there was this position on a set called the director. Everyone's heard of a film director, right? Who hasn't? And we've even heard of film directors, Scorsese, Spielberg, whoever. But I always what does a director actually do? And after having realized what a director actually does on a set and fully undergoing the realization that the director is the creative presence behind a film, in the same way a writer is the creative presence behind a book. A choreographer is the person that designs the dance. The director is that to a film. So once I realized that was a thing, and I also just realized that there's such a beautiful artistry to films beyond what we're just fed by popular culture, beyond Marvel or that Titanic soppy crap. I realized there's actually brilliant films out there. My interest shifted. Yeah. So then, like you say, philosophy, but then after uni, I didn't want to do anything but films, in any capacity. So I did locations department stuff, production, sustainability, AD. When you met me on Bleeding Poverty, the Derby feature film, I was a third AD. So yeah, so it was a bit of a weird journey to get there, and I'm still kind of learning.
To most people, it would be very, very surprising that how did you manage to even get into film from philosophy, right? But most people think it won't even be possible, right? To do something like that. It's they might have a dream in their heart to go into movies or to do these things that they want to do as a passion, but they were focused on career, making money. But how did you, from doing a philosophy degree, end up in movie? What enabled you to do that?
So I guess it was actually weirdly a bit of a con. Not a con, but I kind of wormed my way in. And I'd like to correct you there. So obviously a lot of people might neglect something like film, which might be their passion because they want a career and money.
Yeah.
I'm still not at that stage yet. I'm still in the very beginner stage. Yeah. But once, I know a lot of people who are even my age, but generally a couple of years older, and they've got fantastic careers in film, whether it's production, coordinating, whether it's assistant directing, whether it's costume buying, it doesn't matter, props buying, doesn't matter what it is, you can have an amazing career and a lot of stability, a lot of security, and a lot of financial success in film. I'm not talking about acting and stuff like that, directing, not those big kind of glamorous glitzy roles, even stuff you've never heard about. When maybe you'll sit for an extra 2 minutes during the credits in a film, and after 2 minutes you'll see some random position, random name. I guarantee you they're rich. they've got some great flat in London, I guarantee you, because there's a lot of money in big feature films, big TV series, there's a lot of money. So there's a big conception, especially within our, like the Indian community, that no, a film will, whatever, it'll be your ruin. No, once you get your foot in and work hard for a couple of years, if you get your foot in and you're there, I promise you, you'll be richer than all the other doctors, IT guys, engineers that your parents were telling you to go towards, okay? But so, yeah, how did I get into film? So I spent 2 months unemployed. I was unemployed. I was working in a bar in my hometown, and I really wanted to get into film. So then there was a guy in the year above me, a good friend, who was working as what's called a location marshal in films. So that's a location marshal is when you shoot on a location as opposed to studio, you need a group of people, locations team, to sort out the location, to manage it, to bring the water, to bring the food, to do all that, to set up the tents, to make sure everything's going smoothly, to sign the documents that allow you to rent and be on the field, etc. So I was doing the very low position of that. It was called what's called a location marshal, where you just help, you set up tents, you just help around the location. He got me a day doing that. And then I made a lot of contacts there, build that up slowly. So then there's a few WhatsApp groups, Facebook groups, and then I just started applying there constantly. I did a couple more days, and then in the new year, which was 2023 last year, I did a couple of weeks more. And then I saw this opening on, they were asking for a sustainability production assistant. So a runner, basically, for ease's sake, a runner, which is, are you aware of the term runner? A runner is just like the person who does the shit work on a film set. So there was a runner position on the new Ghostbusters film. And I was like, okay, let me apply. And then they seemed interested in me. So then they were like, what experience do you have? And I was like, and then I really exaggerated the locations work I'd done. I said I'd been doing it for months. I'm really only doing it for I think I had 5 days experience. Somehow I got it. And then, yeah.
You believed in yourself. Like that you could do the role. Right. And you made them believe it as well.
I think that role and being a runner, being a production assistant of any sort in film set, anyone can do it. I assure you. You don't need to have gone to film school. So that's why, from your perspective, it might be shocking that I did philosophy and did it. Anyone can do it. Anyone. Yeah. I could have done it when I was 14.
You're right, because I did it myself as well, Ronald. And it's more to do with the fact that, are you taking care of the people?
Yeah.
Right? And just double checking that, if everything is like good. Like, and then like everything's, I guess you're basically like a bread and butter, of making sure. Like everything's going smoothly. But what amazed me even more, right? Like you said, like you made them believe, and you kind of said it conned, but I don't want to say that.
No, it was a con. Trust me, it really was.
But what amazed me was, 6 months in, and then you managed to shoot a short film with the crew from Ghostbusters, right? You and for free, right? Almost for free, right? Like on low budget, right? When I was there on that day, right? When you cast me, and I was, in Reading, right? When we shot the short film, I was just amazed, like the amount of the truck that was coming in with all the lights, and the professional kits with the rig, right, for the camera, and there's the thing that people who are working with Tom Cruise, Daniel Craig, like big movie Hollywood actors, right? And then you convinced them within 6 months, like, to create a short film, right? Like, how did you do that, right? And how did you make that happen?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. So like Tim, for example, he was the guy who was a spark on my short film. Yeah. He's normally a gaffer, like he's like the head of lighting. Okay. Yeah. So from in one angle, it does look like they've worked with Tom Cruise. But for example, I've worked with Bill Murray because I was on Ghostbusters, right? But I haven't strictly worked. I haven't been like, you're right, Bill, should we go for a pint after work? It's a very different kind of worked with. I worked with Paul Rudd, but I haven't. I've been on the same set as him. I was on the same movie, but I haven't worked with him. So I do get what you're saying. But in terms of how did I convince them? I mean, it was just like anyone in any workplace, you just ask your colleague and then they agree to do so. So a lot of the lighting people who did it, I mean, I used to go to the lighting team all the time to have a chat. We'd have a coffee. They'd all smoke, whatever. It's a big thing. All the lighting guys would always smoke. And I just sit with them. So then we slowly became close. The DOP, the cinematographer, Lara, I'd see her all the time in the food queue or the coffee queue because she was a camera trainee. Yeah. So she was always getting stuff for people. And then you just slowly build a relationship. And I think, I just asked I mean, if it was more than a day, I'm sure they would have maybe asked for some remuneration. But it was just the fact that it was a night. We were all kind of doing everyone a favor because there was a lot of people. It wasn't just me, but Laura's DOP, Alec, the sound guy, Alex, the gaffer. We're all up and coming. We all want to he wants to be a gaffer when he's older. So he needs these kind of smaller credits to build a portfolio. So we were all doing each other a favor, I guess. Yeah, so I mean, I'm really grateful to them that they did it because number one, the script wasn't even that good. It was a very like jokey comedy. It was something I just needed to make a short film to prove that I could in the future if I wanted to make something more serious. I'd say at least I have this. So please, you can give me funding, whatever. So I'm very grateful. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a thing though. Like in the beginning, did you think it was going to turn out as well as it did in the very beginning? Yeah,
there was no room. I didn't think in any creative's head there's ever room for failure.
Okay.
You always go into it thinking, yeah, it's going to come out exactly as I want it. Often it doesn't, and then you fail. Or sometimes it does, but in my head it didn't come out the way I wanted it. No.
Oh, it didn't? Oh,
yeah, in many ways, but I'm still happy with the final product. You know what I mean?
But also what I'm trying to say is like, did you think like this, like all this crew was going to be there
okay. So in that sense, like I didn't show it to you, I hope, and I didn't show it to anyone else, but for the few days before, I was seriously anxious and nervous because we were shooting in public, in quite a busy public. You remember there was buses stopping and looking, people walking past and bothering us. So very busy. And essentially in this country, if you're shooting with more than 3 people, or if you're shooting even one person with all this equipment, you need a permit. Yeah. So I thought, okay, let me get a permit. I went on the council website. A permit was like at least 500 quid. No way am I'd have 500 quid. So then I thought, okay, you're going to have to do it without, everyone's coming, so you have to do it without a permit. So I just, please, I prayed that the police wouldn't drive past anything. So I was very nervous for that reason. And in that sense, yeah, it did work out because no one stopped us. A police car actually drove past and I looked at it, I was like, oh my God. But luckily, didn't do anything. So
I'm so surprised, like for someone who been only in film for like 6 months, being able to manage all that, right? And get it to work, right? Like, and like, get a final finished product where you can say, wow, like, you created that. And be able to sell, like, to showcase it to future, like, work, right? To create any of your future films, right? It's amazing, right?
Thanks, man.
Yeah. And the thing is right now, like I said as well, right? When you were there, when you were there in Reading trying to shoot, the movie, the people there got involved, right? It's like, like when we were all trying to set up and everything, the people in the houses were like, do you want coffee? Right, and even like people, the restaurants close by, right? And they were like, do you need any help?
They were. I mean, so the Chinese restaurant were really nice. They were like really intrigued watching it. The corner shop were really they were really intrigued. And I think so film does have this glamour, even when it's something like this. It's just I'm just some random dude who lives a few streets down. I got a bit of money together, got some people together to make a little tiny 1.5 minute short film. Even then it's got some kind of glamour and people are like, wow, like, oh my God. So yeah, you're right. Like a lot of people it was very interesting to a lot of people, especially in a place like Reading. Nothing happens in Reading. So I lived there for 6 months for Ghostbusters and now I'm not there anymore, but nothing happens there. So it was very exciting for people. And film, for sure, does carry some kind of glamour.
And the thing is, it attracted various types of people, right? It wasn't just, like it attracted people who wanted to help out. There's people, like, a couple of lads who were like trying to like ruin the shops as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So mix.
Yeah.
A mix of people trying to get attention. Right? And I was like, okay, it is what it is. But that's what I'm trying to say. It's like, it grabs attention and people like trying to record from their cars.
So a bus drove past and maybe 20 people in the bus, at least a third of them were like filming, putting it on something. And it's like, we're not shooting the next James Bond film.
No.
You know what I mean?
Exactly, but that's what I'm trying to say. It looked like you were shooting a big movie.
For sure, because of the rig, right? Because of the lighting.
And that's what I'm trying to get at. Like, it's like, most people, right, always put these things, like, if they might want to shoot a movie, like a person in the creative industry, like this is a dream for them. That's like to be able to shoot something with a team like this, and they have to make do with what they have, right? Little kit. But with this movie, it's so surprising how how you like. And I think this thing, like, I know, like it's very like it happened, and like, you know, you kind of like build relationship and it worked out. But at the same time, like maybe it's like meant to happen, right? Like, but at the same time, I think it's also a skill, right, within you as a, you know, like as a director, but also I think that one, like as a director, skill is bringing everyone together.
Yeah. I think that is even Christopher Nolan, he won the Golden Globe for Oppenheimer a couple of nights ago.
Oh yeah.
He said like that's what a director does, is just bring people together and make sure they do their best. Everyone does their best.
And that's what I think. I think you got like a really like I don't know, like I think you got exceptional talent in being a director. I think it's natural, right? And
very kind.
Yeah. No, I'm not. It's not to be kind, but I think, I think it's genuinely like, and maybe it's because, you know, when I was getting ready for my role, I could see like all these movie posters and everything on your, you know, wall in the room, right? And you're like, I watch one movie a day, right? So you're in this world. There's nothing, right? You're literally, you're obsessed with your craft. And I think maybe that's why,
So yeah, I like you. This is not just with movies, but I think it's always great if you've got a goal to just give everything to the goal. If you're Usain Bolt and you want to become the fastest, I'm sure all he did was run, think about running, go to the gym so he could be faster, eat the kind of foods he needed to so he could be slimmer so he could be faster. It's just that single-mindedness. I can't personally think of doing anything else apart from cinema. I'm obsessed with cinema. I'm obsessed with watching movies, reading about movies, making movies, writing scripts for movies. I just can't think of anything else. Obviously in life we have other things. You need a personal life, you need to eat, you need friends. They're all a very low second compared to movies for me. So I think there's lots of other people I've met recently in the past year working in film, and a lot of them go, I want to be a director. And I'm like, oh great. What have you seen then? Have you seen anything? And they haven't even seen something as basic as Godfather, Taxi Driver, Pulp Fiction. These are like some of the most basic films a film fan has seen. They haven't even seen them. So then I'm like, great, okay, you want to be a director, let's just stop the conversation there, because, you know what I mean? You haven't even seen...
That's something, maybe, that's what I was trying to like, maybe the reason, right, I'm thinking like, from my head, like, they, like, I don't know if you heard of the term, like, having a why, right? So, like, I think maybe you have a strong why.
Right, I get what you're saying, yes.
It's like a Simon Sinek, it's like, start with why. Maybe you heard of Simon Sinek, but, like, he says this thing where, like, always start with why. Right. If you know your reason behind why you want to do something, that gives you like a long-term vision for something, right? So what's your why? Like, then I think that's what's driving your, like, you know, your obsession in film. Yeah.
Like you say, a reason beyond just making a film. I mean, a film is ultimately, I don't know, just a purposeless 2-hour bit of entertainment, but there needs to be a higher purpose to that. And that's why, for example, a Marvel film or like some of these crap films that come out, some of the rom-com nonsense that Tamil movies, especially, like some of the nonsense that comes out there, then that's not what I want to create. That's stupid for me. I think film is incredible because above all the other narrative art forms, whether it's a dance or an opera or a novel or a short story or, you know, even a song that releases a narrative as it flows, I think film is very good at demanding its audience, its viewer, enters the subjectivity presented. Okay, so if I'm making Taxi Driver, Scorsese's Taxi Driver, about a lonely, isolated, kind of weird Vietnam War veteran who, because of his insomnia, is driving taxis in New York. Day and night, he doesn't stop. That's so far removed from mine and your world, okay?
Yeah.
So it just couldn't be more far removed. You and me, we've never seen active combat. Let me talk about myself only because I can't quite comment on you, but I've never seen active combat. I'm surrounded by people and friends. I'm a very happy individual. I've got purpose. So I'm in every way a polar opposite to Travis Bickle. But for some reason, I empathize with him so much because the film in which he's presented, Taxi Driver, demands that I enter his subjectivity. I enter his world.
Yeah.
Okay, and novels can do that. Yeah, I can read, 100 Years of Solitude and enter the subjectivities of hundreds of people. But film is just so visceral. The music, the sound design, the way I can see the character, the way it edits, it just demands, it won't let you go from its grip. Because of that cinematic power, I believe, cinema is just, it's elevated, right? And I think that beauty of cinema can do some remarkable things for society. For example, if all these people, there's, let's say, Israel-Palestine at the moment. Okay, you can be on whoever's side, you can be pro-Israel, pro-Palestine, but you can't, that's all politics for me, okay? But you can't rightfully, no one in their right mind morally will say that what Israel are doing in Palestine to all those innocent people, whether they're kids or not, women, men, it doesn't matter. 20,000 people, the last time I checked, have been massacred. You cannot in your right mind say that that's okay. No. You can't. You can say Israel have a right to exist. Yeah, that's fine. I think I even slightly agree with that. Yeah. But you cannot in your right mind say that there's 20,000 people should be massacred. Or what else is Israel meant to do? No, that's just a messed up opinion. And the reason people are able to make a comment like, oh, Israel, that's what Israel have to do or whatever, is because the way they're perceiving that situation is not through the way of film, cinema, literature. They're perceiving it in this very crass kind of newsreels way, or TikTok way, or Instagram stories way, or like just newspaper headlines way. They're not entering the subjectivity. Yeah. If you enter the subjectivity of a Palestinian man trying to protect his family from a missile just about to bomb, and if you see that through the prism of cinema, if you read a book about it, then there is no way you can just quickly go, that's what Israel have to do. But if I'm just watching stupidly edited newsreel after newsreel, if I'm just reading some Instagram headline, then I'll easily be able to go, oh yeah, that's what Israel have to do, because I'm not entered that subjectivity. I don't feel it. There is no way I can ask these people of Britain around me to enter the subjectivity of a Palestinian. I never have either. The only way I can do that is by ensuring that film captures these things. Yeah. So I think that's the power of cinema, and cinema done rightly.
I think I get what you're trying to say. It's to do with the fact that, you know, like a film, like kind of like you said, puts yourself, depending on how you, like, you know, because you're watching it from like an observer's point of view, right? Like it gives a perspective on a person's, like you'll be able to relate with and empathize with someone, with their life, right? And then because you can empathize with their situation and have compassion towards that, then you can see, oh, maybe I was kind of deluded, or I was deluded by the fact that, by like, you know, all the media and like all the noise, and I couldn't really see the pain points of the people.
Yes, yeah, 100%. It puts you in that person's shoes in a stronger way than just a newspaper headline does. Yeah.
And like I said, if you're going to make a movie, like putting it in the perspective of both Israel and Palestine, right? You might be able to see why these two, you know, like countries are acting the way they are. Right? Like, why is Israel acting the way that Israel's acting? Right?
So you make a really good point. Yeah, because I didn't even think of that. I mean,
yeah, because they, you know, like, what's their story? What's, like, you know, what's driving them to do what they're doing? And like, you know, a Palestinian person, or like they're like seeing as like, you know, like what's happening to me, right? So it like I said, it puts like a clearer, if we can narrate it really well, it puts a clear perspective.
Yeah. No, so that you make a really good point, because I never thought, what about if you flip it, you can also use film to explain why the Israeli government is oppressing Palestinians in that way. That's a good point. But I personally, like, number one, I could never tell you why the oppressor oppresses. Whether it's an Israeli government, whether it's the Saudis, whether it's British, whether it's Americans, who are the worst of all the oppressors, I could never get in the mind of them. And I think it's an incorrect or even inappropriate use of the film form to try and argue the case of the oppressor. I would always try and make films, me personally, I would always try and make films on the side of the oppressed. But then I also do think it's valuable to get in the mind of, I don't know, a maniac like George Bush. Why did he invade Iraq? And I mean, there are films, you know, Vice was a great 2018 film. Christian Bale plays Dick Cheney, who was George Bush's vice president. And fantastic film, and it gets into the mind of Dick Cheney, why he acts that way. So then, like you say, it is also valuable in understanding the situation at hand. Yeah. But the best films for me are always maybe not socially conscious, but they are elevated somewhat philosophically. They're deep. They challenge. They present a worldview that's different to the spectators. And that clash is where the beauty of cinema arises. And
these philosophical, like I said, movies, they tend to have a message, right? I think, and or no, is it thought provoking for the viewer?
It's thought provoking, yeah, but I don't think they like it's very hard. It's not very hard. It's almost impossible to deliver a message in film Roger Ebert is a great film critic. He's not great. He won a Pulitzer Prize. In my opinion, he's not the best. But he said about Russian Soviet era filmmakers who, because of the state, were forced to make socially conscious films in a kind of weird way. The Soviet Marxists didn't understand that film is not a good medium for delivering his message. If I want to deliver a message, the best way to say it is like this. Hey, Melvin, is what Israel are doing in Palestine is wrong. Film is good at presenting presenting a kind of situation and letting the audience make up its mind. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like Goodfellas, Wolf of Wall Street, there's a lot of people say, oh, these are bad films because it shows this world in a glamorous light. But then Scorsese's response is always, no, I don't need to tell you it's wrong. If I need to tell you that embezzling and stealing from all these poor people is wrong, like Jordan Belfort does in Wolf of Wall Street, if I need to tell you that, then you're an idiot. Because you should know that anyway. Yeah. You know what I mean? So film isn't, I disagree with the message aspect. But it should always, the best films provoke thought. Yeah, you think, oh God, something is stirred within me that I need to respond to. And the best films do that. Obviously, the 99% of things released are not good. I mean, there's a lot of shit crap cinema that comes out. So
I believe that, film is, like, we talked about before, is a good place to build community. It's got a really community aspect to it. And like you said, particularly, you there in the when you're working with your crew members in Ghostbusters, you were able to get everyone together and shoot your first feature film, and everyone just came together, right? And again, not just in your workplace, everyone got together to shoot your first short film, but the community came together to offer you coffee and help you, give you a space to shoot the film, right? And I think because that's the element of film and that I love, right? The element where film, I always feel like even shooting a movie can bring people together, right? And that's what my passion is. That's what makes me passionate about the creative field and the bringing out the people's humanity and healing people. Because in this connected world, we're so disconnected. I just feel like it's a tool to bring that back. So, what are your thoughts?
I very strongly disagree with you. I very firmly disagree. And I disagree not just on filmmaking, but creativity also. I think the creative works in isolation. Very rarely, I mean, maybe in some fields, but the creative arts I love, music, literature, cinema, art, like painting, whatever, the creative always works in isolation. It's a bit of an illusion that the director works with multiple people or whatever. Okay. Picasso always painted by himself. Okay, he might have lived in Paris and been surrounded by all these artists, but the artist is always undergoing the artistic process in isolation. There's one of my favorite filmmakers, one filmmaker who I'll never understand. His name is Jean-Luc Godard. Okay, he was a French filmmaker, and he said something along the lines of cinema is not a craft, it's not teamwork. He says some things, then he says a filmmaker stands before the set in the same way a writer stands before the page.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a myth just because a director is on a set surrounded by all these different people that it's a big collaborative effort. The director is the creative vision behind the film. If you ever get the chance, look up French New Wave auteur theory. And that was just a theory that says that the director is to a film like a writer is to a book. So there's an illusion that all these things are going on, but the director is the ultimate creative artist, is the vision behind the film. And thus, yeah, I mean, film does bring people together, I guess, yeah. But there's better ways to bring people together. Religion, church, music. You know what I mean? I think film is a very expensive way to bring people together. You have to pay everyone, and cameras are bloody expensive. So does it bring people together? Yeah. Does creative activity bring people together? Yeah, to an extent. But if you really want to bring people together, there's better ways, in my opinion. Film, we do it because we want to create something, not because I want to bring people together. I mean that for Thief, we brought people together for 6 hours, and then half of them I haven't spoken to since.
Yeah, same.
So
yeah.
I imagine you've only spoken to me as well. You probably haven't spoken to any of the others.
No.
So it brings people together. Yeah, I guess the community's all happy, giddy for the few hours. But that's not why. I mean, other people are welcome to disagree as you are. But that's not why I didn't make that film to go, oh, let's bring all these people together. I was with them Monday to Friday anyway. I don't want to see them anymore. I mean, I'm bringing them together so we've got something to create. And yeah, I think creativity, artistry is a very isolated, is a very singular activity.
Yeah.
And even experiencing artworks, whether you're looking at a painting in a gallery, you're watching a film, you're reading a book, listening to a song, it's always done in isolation. Sometimes there's the illusion you're doing it with other people, you're walking with your girlfriend around a gallery or you're with your mates in a rave, but it's always the actual experience of the art is always in isolation. Thus, yeah, I until I met you, I never thought about this community aspect of filmmaking, and I don't really care too much for it. I'd rather, if I wanted to bring people together, put a few pizzas on the table, and that's bound to bring.
Right, and it's like I said, like singular work, right? Like I said, solitude, and it's almost like connected to the source and getting like, it's almost like, and being able to retrieve ideas and like visions into life, like you said, right? And it has that like really nice thing about it. But at the same time, like the reason why I'm quite passionate, right, about this element of bringing community together is because if you look at like, example of the UK, for example, like the youngsters, right, like they're going into drugs, right, or they're going into like, they're going into things that like they want purpose, but
yeah, a lot of people are lacking in purpose the world over, not just in Britain. I mean,
exactly. Like overall, people are lacking purpose, and especially like people. There's no, and it's like very hard to find good role models as well, and that's why like I see a potential in film for that, and I think there's a market for it. If I that's why I think, right, and and. I within a community, I always feel like it's the young that we need to look after, right? And if they're not looked after properly, that like, we're going to go, like, it's like I said, like what's happening, right? Like Palestine, Israel, what's happening next? Like we're killing children. What's going to happen next, right? Where are we heading towards to? Like what we've been taught, like by our ancestors, and like, what people have gone through in World War One, World War Two, like what's that? Where is that going?
Yeah, I think lack of purpose in modern society is like a really, obviously it's a severe problem, but it's also much more complex than a little conversation can solve. I don't know if obviously film is not the answer. I think it's a lot broader question and it's a lot broader answer. If you create a society based upon money and proliferating the creation of money just endlessly and buying meaningless products and watching meaningless shows and eating meaningless foods and just living this purposeless life. I mean, I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense.
It does,
but if that's the kind of society we live in, then you can't blame kids for not having any meaning or purpose in their lives. I lived a lot of my life until I was around 20 without a real purpose and just kind of just doing random things. Luckily, I found cinema, but yeah, it's a big cultural malaise. I'm sure it's existed for decades before, but it feels a lot more pertinent now, a lot more acute now. I don't know what the answer is. We have to overturn the system we have right now in place, but no one is presenting an alternative system. You know what I mean?
No.
There's so much wrong with the world right now. Let's own it in a bit. There's so much wrong with Britain right now, politically, economically, culturally. But there is no one offering a kind of alternative. There's maybe a couple of people here and there offering ideas, but there's no movement. No
one's challenging strongly like what's going
on. And even if there was, it feels as even if there was a great alternative presented, people wouldn't really care as long as they've got their McDonald's once a week and their TV, and it doesn't seem like they care. Everyone's just a bit too comfortable in their crap comfort. So I'm personally on that front very pessimistic. I've read the books of and watched the films of some of the world's 20th century's greatest geniuses, and they didn't manage to change anything. So I'm not very hopeful myself, but doesn't mean we shouldn't try.
Yeah.
And doesn't mean we shouldn't talk about things. Yeah. But yeah, I'm very pessimistic in that front.
I think I'm very optimistic. Like,
Yeah, there's a
but I might be too optimistic from what from the podcast that you mentioned.
it's good. I mean, so I read this quote recently. It was talk like a pessimist, act like an optimist.
Oh, okay.
So
wow.
that's what I try and do. So I mean, in a discussion like this, that was a very horrible, pessimistic worldview. But then I'd like to think I act like an optimist in some ways. Maybe I should take more pages from your book.
Realism. That's what it is, right?
Yeah. My point is, just because the world seems like rubbish, it doesn't mean we should stop trying to make it a better place.
So, thank you very much, Krish, for coming on to my podcast. It's been great. You've given me so much things to think about with myself as well. Yeah. Right? like the ending, I was like, like how to balance things out, and be, like I said, talk like a pessimist and
act like an optimist.
Optimist, yeah, that's what I like. I to give this a go, and then and I also, I really wanted to. I'm really happy that you're one of my first guests on this podcast, and I'm amazed, like I said, with the work that you've done. Just in the matter of like 6-7 months within the film industry, and I'm. I don't know, maybe in 5 years' time, I would love to see where you are. And,
Thanks, man.
Yeah. And I just want to thank everyone for who came here and watched and sit and listened to this conversation. And I'm going to also drop in the description Krish's short film.
What's it called?
It's called Thief.
Yes.
Thief! Is that the very end? Thief! But yeah, thank you everyone. Thanks for watching.